and welcome back. This is Grand Finals, baby, here at the Balance Patch Mid-Season Showdown. I am Solex Cross, Naheem Dennis. If you don't remember, I am joined here with Jacob, Linty, and we are so about to get into this, yo. I'm excited.
Could not be more excited.
So excited, dude.
As you might have heard right at the end of this last round, one of our finalists, Rushil, in his final event of the season, not going to North American International Championship, no more locals, got his Worlds invite by placing in the top 2 of today's mid-season showdown.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we want to see.
The last-minute qualification. So excited for Rushil, his second World Championships. I talked to him between rounds. He said he's not going to be able to go to Worlds next year anyway, just too busy with the schedule. And so getting to Worlds again this season, so excited for him.
So excited, and I want to see them there.
Oh,
That's it. I'm ready for that. But now he has to worry about tonight. So right now we're going to be playing against Sohaib, who is just on a hot streak, a quick 2-0 victory in that last round, and now riding that momentum here. I think Rushil actually had a 2-0 victory as well. I didn't hear about it.
I wasn't sure on how that match against Adrian finished for Rushil. I don't know if it was 2-0 or 2-1, but I do know that Rushil did, come out on top. Okay. We're getting a lot of shrugs on the back end. It looks like we are going to talk about Sohaib's team, though. Just going right back through it. Should be pretty quick. We just saw it on stream.
Sure.
But this is a team that Sohaib said he built with a couple of his friends on the car ride over to the event today.
Yes.
And he's been talking every single round after he's been winning every single round about how much he dislikes his restricted Pokemon Zacian. He's been saying the entire tournament, if this was a Calyrex Shadow Rider, if this was a Zamazenta, if only these games would be so much easier. He's been bringing Pelipper, Amoonguss, Chien-Pao, Iron Hands, and Incineroar, those Pokemon far more than he's been bringing his restricted. And look where it got him. I'm terrified for the day that we have to see Sohaib using restricted Pokemon that he likes using.
Yeah, let it be a Calyrex Shadow Rider, and we're all GGs. I don't know what to say. It's very intimidating.
We're all playing for second place at that point.
Oh, my goodness. Holding myself back and winning. That's crazy. Come on.
But, of course, the stellar Terastallization we got to see on full display last round for Chien-Pao. I think that's probably the coolest part about this team, is that he is taking advantage of this new mechanic available to us as of Regulation F. And it did put in a decent bit of work. Ensured the 2-hit KO on the opposing Okidogi in that round, and really just does incredible damage across the board. But flipping it over to Rushil's team, I think that's where we get to see something that we haven't, at least Rushil we haven't seen on stream all day, but we have seen a lot of these same Pokemon, a pretty standard Calyrex Ice Rider build for his team. But this player, one of the best pilots of Trick Room or Semi-Trick Room in not just New England, but the entire country.
I have a question for you. We've been seeing a lot of Pelipper today, some with Covert Cloak and some with Focus Sash. What is your opinion on the item that Pelipper should be bringing? I'm honestly partial to the Focus Sash. I like guaranteeing a 2-hit.
Absolutely. I love Focus Sash on Pelipper. I believe that there is a little bit of a mistake on the graphic that we see before us. Pelipper should be Drizzle and not Keen Eye.
Yes, absolutely.
But the item is correct. He does have the Focus Sash on Rushil's team. And I'm also partial to the Focus Sash on this Pokemon. I ran a very similar team to Rushil at the Indianapolis Regionals a couple of weeks ago. I had Golden Go instead of Raging Bolt, but that last slot's very flexible. I do think after my run that the Raging Bolt is probably the better Pokemon as the 6th. We were just alerted to another mistake on the graphic as well. Amoonguss is Regenerator, not Effect Spore. Our graphics team, it's getting late in the day.
It's been a long day.
My ass is tired.
We can cut out some of those words for the highlight reel.
That's about the only amount of swearing I'm allowed to say on a Pokemon stream.
But for Rushil's team, I think the interesting points that you make with the Calyrex Ice Rider composition are what's the Terra type on your Calyrex, what is your Incineroar set, and as we will likely see pretty early in this game, how is that Incineroar trained? I know a lot of them like to run very, very fast on these kinds of teams, so you can make sure that you have the faster fake out when you're staring down a Rillaboom. But if you have a team like this one where the Urshifu Water has coaching as the final move instead of the Aqua Jet, it's a little bit more common as that 4th. Could you just lead your Urshifu and your Calyrex, see how the Calyrex is trained, and maybe keep your Incineroar a little bit slower, a little bit bulkier to try to make do with those attack and defense boosts from coaching.
Yes, coaching, it's just a great move to have. You just provide a ton of support for your partner Pokemon. But looking at the match here, we do see the leads being this Pelipper with Incineroar on the right for Sohaib, and then Rushil is going to be rocking that Urshifu there and Calyrex Ice Form. I forget the proper name for it.
The Calyrex Ice Rider.
Ice
Yes.
Rider. There we go. I was close enough.
And so we do have a potential coaching lead here for Rushil. Of course, Sohaib can shut that down pretty easily with a fake out into either one of these slots. But for this Pelipper, I think in a very strong position, not threatened by a ton of damage by either of these Pokemon,
Right.
and can shut down this Calyrex by just clicking Wide Guard.
Yeah, it's a pretty good move to click. Will deny almost everything it can do. But we do see a swap out to this Amoonguss here with the Wide Guard coming up. Let's see what happens here.
That the Urshifu is going to just click U-turn, breaking the Focus Sash, or rather, not Focus Sash because that's Covert Cloak on Sohaib's side. But going to just do a little bit of chip damage onto this Pelipper. Will bring out his own Pelipper.
Hilarious.
Is Rushil. And now this Calyrex going for the Glacial Lance. Great call for Sohaib just to get that Wide Guard up, protect Amoonguss, let it switch in for free. Although still staring down a Calyrex Ice Rider and a Pelipper, both of which are a little bit spooky for this Amoonguss.
Yes. Well, the only other options we have here is high horsepower on this Calyrex, and it can't really do much to either of these Pokemon. It's one of them is just ineffective, and Amoonguss doesn't care, like, at all.
Oh,
like,
no.
So I do think we will see a switch out in that slot, which is going to be a free sport if I've ever seen one in that slot at all.
Oh, yeah.
But now, of course, this Pelipper on Rushil's side, I wonder what it's going to go for. How do you challenge that?
Yeah, for Rushil's Pelipper, you would think, holding the Focus Sash, it's likely trained to be pretty quick and have a lot of special attack investment. Could do some decent damage to this Amoonguss, even through the Water-type terrestrialization that we're seeing now with the Hurricane, especially because this Amoonguss on Sohaib's side is not holding a Citrus Berry, does not have any form of recovery outside of Regenerator.
Does not pass go.
Yeah, exactly. The Calyrex for Rushil does just protect here, just trying to scout out this turn. As the Hurricane does come through, and we are going to see...
Oh, that's almost half.
That's
Wow.
almost half as Hurricane goes into the Calyrex slot. When we were looking at this turn, there's no way to prevent this Spore into the Calyrex except to protect, but the Spore goes into Pelipper.
Pelipper! What a call! Predicting a protect? I actually thought there would be a real switch out in that position, but didn't switch out, went for protect instead. Interesting play, I'm not sure if I like that, but hey, I'm not the one at top table, so.
Oh no, and that's a very crucial Spore just to get the Pelipper put to sleep. And I just want to take a second to look at this. We have two Pelippers on the field in grand finals of a midseason showdown. I love how great Pelipper is in this format.
Yes.
It just provides so much value to their team.
Interesting play. We're going to switch out both Pokemon here. Wow, okay, just switching up the slots. Going in with Incineroar. What are we cooking?
And I think the Incineroar is really there just to try to soak up a Spore into that slot, holding the safety goggles item, but the Hurricane catches Urshifu on the switch in. That's a one-hit KO onto that slot.
That one-hit KO is huge. Urshifu was definitely necessary to put some holes into this team on Sohaib's side, but now that option is gone to you.
And Spore comes out, does not affect Incineroar. Calyrex back onto the field, and Rushil really on the back foot here with a Pelipper that has taken 0 turns of its sleep, and a prime Spore target into that Calyrex Ice Rider. Of course, Calyrex can always go to Terrestrialize into a Grass type to get away from being affected by those powder moves like Rage Powder and Spore. But there's a Pelipper with Hurricane standing right on the other end of the field, or flying right on the other end of the field, that you do not want to be a Grass type right in front of.
Well, hold on. Let's think about it, right? Is that Hurricane threatening a knockout if I'm a Grass type, right? I think that's, depending on how Calyrex is trained, it could probably lift one and then fire off an Ice attack that could do a decent amount of damage here.
You're just taking so much damage in that trade.
That's a lot of trade.
Especially with no recovery for the Calyrex Ice Rider. You do see the fake out going into the Incineroar switch in on Sohaib's side as Hurricane comes out. And Calyrex now going to just click another Glacial Lance. This time no Wide Guard on Sohaib's side, and that's going to do a lot of damage to the Pelipper.
Yeah, that was a pretty big turn for sure. And now, very importantly, no confusion as well. Have to point that out from that Hurricane. So you can feel free to click that button again if you want to, but more than likely, we might actually see Wide Guard come out.
Yeah.
No, Protect instead from Calyrex.
Rushil taking this turn a little bit more slowly, protects in front of a Will-O-Wisp from this Incineroar, and seeing here now on Sohaib's side, the Incineroar faster than the Pelipper.
Nice. Woo!
Wow.
50%! Wow!
Why'd that do
Okay.
so much damage?
That was basically like activating the Focus Sash. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's actually really funny.
Yeah, and I guess indicating of how Rushil's Pelipper is trained, not the bulkiest Pokemon in the world.
Not at all.
You're taking half from a resisted hit. But seeing from Sohaib's side that the Incineroar is trained to be faster than Pelipper. Pelipper, a Pokemon that typically likes to have a lot of speed investment and is just faster naturally than Incineroar. Indicative of how fast Sohaib's Incineroar is, that's good information for the rest of the set. As Calyrex will switch out, this is a prime position now for Rushil's Incineroar, as neither of these Pokemon really threaten it, especially with that safety goggles item.
Very interesting. Good switch on their part. Now, not even going to be worried about Spore here. But wait, that's
Now
not
we
true.
are.
Not true. Knockoff taking off the safety goggles here. That is going to put you in a dire situation. Now, I can go for Spore. Oh, my goodness. Still not waking up either. Yeah, it's not a good position to be in.
Sohaib's Incineroar faster than Rushil's Pelipper as well. And that knockoff, just a fantastic mid-ground play. You're able to, of course, do some damage to the Calyrex Ice Rider if it stays in. You knock off the Clear Amulet to allow you to Intimidate Cycle and Parting Shot later on in the game.
Yes.
But catching the Incineroar especially makes that just a free Spore target for the rest of this game, as that knockoff not quite enough to deal with this Pelipper. It'll take its second turn of sleep right there. Incineroar knocking off the Amoonguss's Rocky Helmet, just trying to get any type of damage it can before I think we are about to see this Incineroar on Rushil's side take a nap as well.
Yes, and they're all taking a nice, healthy nap. Just resting off some damage. Not really, though. You wish it was rest.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Nah, this is a bit of a sticky situation. Oh, okay, a resignation here. I think that's a good call. It was a really tough position to be in. Your opponent hasn't lost a single one of their Pokemon yet. They didn't even reveal the last one yet. And
Oh, yeah.
2 of your Pokemon are asleep.
Yeah, just a very tough position. I think Rushil not needing to give away any more information. How much damage a knockoff might do into your Calyrex could be indicative of the defensive investment you have.
Absolutely.
You don't need to give away information if you are certain that your Calyrex is either faster or slower than the Amoonguss.
Yeah.
So, we don't have to see that speed interaction. That's something that Rushil is able to hide for Game 2. Of course, not playing out that end game, you still don't know what Sohaib's final Pokemon was. You can take a guess that it was the restricted, but this is also a man who does not like to bring his restricted Pokemon often. I think that last Pokemon is pretty up in the air. It could have been any one of those three.
It could have been any one of those three.
But I think we do just see the value of Pelipper, and especially the Covert Cloak on Sohaib's side.
Yes.
Just how valuable that is. You don't care about the fake out from the opposing Incineroar. You're able to outspeed and just threaten a knockout on it with a Weather Ball. You also just do so much damage across the board to the opposing Pelipper, the opposing Amoonguss, and that Calyrex Ice Rider, forming a nice pin with your own Amoonguss between Spore and Hurricane into that slot.
And being able to turn off a restricted best attacking option?
Yeah.
That's pretty good value to me, man. That's so good. But I wonder what we're going to see as an adjustment coming out from Rushil here. What do you think?
I think for Rushil, the Urshifu, while I think it's great in theory, of course, getting it knocked out upon switch in,
true.
That's never ideal.
It wasn't helpful at all.
No, of course not. But I do think that's the Pokemon that you can maybe leave at home. But also, what do I know? There's a reason Rushil is right there.
It's so true, so true, so true.
And so he is leading the Raging Bolt, which I do think is a great adaptation because of how difficult that Pelipper was to deal with in Game 1. Next to the Urshifu, lets Sohaib's Pelipper set up the rain.
Yep.
So your Surging Strikes are extremely threatening unless we see this little mushroom switch in.
I do like the idea of going for a switch because fake out is just, it's not going to do enough, right? If you fake out the Raging Bolt, yeah, you stop it from attacking, but you're going to have to deal with that Urshifu doing a ton of damage. But if you leave it in and you don't fake out, you fake out Urshifu instead, then you're threatening a KO from Raging Bolt. Get it out of there. And put in this Amoonguss. I think that's the right call.
Yeah, and I think it is a little bit kind of dependent upon what Rushil is thinking, because from his end, he has two Pokemon that cannot protect, that are very vulnerable to fake out, and in Urshifu's case, is very vulnerable to a Hurricane if that follows up from the fake out. Looks like no switches, though, on Rushil's side, as Pelipper will just be content to protect here. This Urshifu moving first will just U-turn into this Amoonguss. A nice play for Rushil to get some momentum. He'll reposition himself. And it'll be interesting to see what he brings out here. I would think this is a prime position for an Incineroar.
Yes.
As it does come out, giving you your own fake out pressure, your own Spore immunity. And Raging Bolt likely just going to be targeting into that Protect on Pelipper.
Yep, there it is. Good call, good call. But now, this is an interesting position for this Amoonguss. It doesn't want to necessarily... I mean, the fire attack from an Incineroar is going to be weakened regardless, but it still has to take a fake out. But also, it can Terra into that water typing and deny fire damage in that way too, but that does make it weak to a Thunderbolt from Raging Bolt. So it's a precarious position for this Amoonguss to be in.
Not as much when you notice that the Incineroar on Rushil's side not carrying Flare Blitz. It is,
excuse me?
It's dropped Flare Blitz for Will-O-Wisp, which a lot of Incineroars have been doing. Sohaib similarly is not carrying Flare Blitz, but also has Will-O-Wisp as well.
Wow.
Especially with a Pelipper on your team, your Rain is dampening your own fire damage already. You'd much rather just be able to set a burn, as Sohaib switches out both Pokemon here. Gets the attack boost on Zacian. Thunderbolt coming out into this Incineroar. Does 2 over half. It's extremely strong. And a Will-O-Wisp to side burn your own Raging Bolt, making it now immune to sleep.
That's so smart.
A great play from Rushil. At least in that in that last turn, had a Spore gone into that slot. Now, though, putting yourself in a position where the Zacian has the attack boost. You do not have a Pokemon that can switch in to intimidate it. You have Incineroar already on the field. Interesting to see where Rushil kind of goes from here. I think each player has played from the back foot to regain momentum on the next turn, and now the ball really is in Rushil's court as Urshifu switches right back into the field.
One thing I really love is utilizing those side attacks, getting an attack off on your partner just to get some kind of advantage. It's not something you see quite often. And I really like seeing it here with that Will-O-Wisp. But now Urshifu coming in, gonna get knocked off. Wait, so no more item on this Urshifu.
No, this Urshifu has not had good luck when it switched back into the field of play both games. Now having its Choice Scarf knocked off will now be slower than this Zacian.
Yes.
Crucially, allowing Zacian to move first, get some damage off. And it looks like Sohaib putting his foot on the gas here on this turn.
What a call out. Predicting that this Urshifu wasn't going to stay in and go for any kind of attack. We're going to see a sword stance from this Zacian. You know, for someone who didn't like Zacian on this team, getting a lot of value in the last few sets I've seen.
But to be fair, a lot of potential energy stored up in that Zacian right now. You know, it's back at neutral attack after this sword stance, will be at +2. But where does Zacian go from there? I think that's where Sohaib has really found some difficulty with this Pokemon.
Fair.
Is it requires a lot of setup. You know, it's Intimidate fodder because it cannot hold the clear amulet item.
True.
It's bound to hold the Rusted Sword. And so it does get the Sword Stance, now putting it back up to +2 stages of attack. As this Thunderbolt's going to go into Amoonguss and not do very much damage at all. Yeah,
that's negligible damage. We can work with that. But man, what a smart burn. I'm really reeling from that. I like that so much. This Spore can't do anything. You can't click that move. So we might even see something like maybe Pollen Puff or Rage Powder here to redirect some of the attacks towards itself.
Yeah.
You can't deny that Will-O-Wisp.
Well, you can Rage Powder the Raging Bolt, but because of the safety goggles on the Incineroar for Rushil, that Will-O-Wisp is looking somewhat free as long as you are not knocked out by this Sacred Sword. Could be a position where Rushil feels he is forced to terrestrialize the Incineroar into that Ghost type, get around the Sacred Sword damage, try to burn Zacian. It's in that same vein, though, of trading away this one turn, committing terrestrialization to make a big swing, try to neutralize the opposing restricted, while on the other hand, making yourself all of a sudden now weaker to the stronger move on Zacian,
Yes.
the Behemoth Blade.
Yes.
But we do see the Terra Ghost come down for Rushil's Incineroar. Sacred Sword does nothing now into the new Ghost type. Draco comes out
Meteor.
into this Amoonguss, does a lot of damage.
Not enough for a KO, though.
No, and the Will-O-Wisp does connect for Rushil. A great, great turn. Now the Zacian essentially back at neutral. You know, it's at +2 on its attack, but the burn knocks it back down. And Spore failing. I think that Spore was intended for the Raging Bolt's slot, trying to call a switch out on that turn.
Wow, this is a bit of a stalemate, I want to say.
Yeah, it's difficult for both players to make a ton of progress in this game. Of course, for the Incineroar, great, now you've burned the Zacian, but of course now you're Behemoth Blade fodder, and your attacks really aren't doing any damage to it because you don't have Flare Blitz. Your only attacking move that can consistently damage the Zacian is Knockoff, but it's only a 65 base power move because you can't knock off the Rusted Sword that Zacian's holding. So you don't get the boost from having an item. The switch out, though, into Calyrex Ice Rider, calling, it seems, the switch into Sohaib's own Incineroar, or at least calling that the Amoonguss wasn't going to stay on the field or wasn't going to click Spore into the Raging Bolt. Both teams, you're repositioning just a little bit. This neutral Behemoth Blade into Incineroar should still do a pretty good job.
That's over half.
But a parting shot now comes out, and now you've got the opposing Zacian right where you want him. Burned, now at just +1 stage of attack. You can come in and intimidate it a second time later, knock it back down to neutral, and you're just able to kind of get that guy in the blender. Just keep him knocking the stages of attack lower and lower so that your Calyrex is a little bit more free to click Glacial Lance in front of this Grass-type Zacian.
Yeah, and now you're wishing we had that Pelipper in play with that really powerful wide guard. But it's got to come in on a free switch if it wants to come in safely.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting that Rushil decided to drop the Pelipper for the Raging Bolt on his side. I think Raging Bolt's a great adaptation here. I do think the Pelipper was still so valuable for him, though, especially with that Focus Sash. And because Zacian, with both of its attacks, cannot hit Pelipper neutrally effectively at all.
Right.
Pelipper does resist both the fighting and the steel move that Zacian has. I guess Rushil thought that he would get a little bit more value out of Raging Bolt, which I think is fair. But interesting nonetheless, as the Calyrex stays on the field, no protect, Zacian just Swords Dancing again in the face of both of these Pokemon.
I mean, even a +1 here because of all that reductions and the burn, of course, it's just not going to be as impressive, you know? Like, the +1's like, what, barely neutral? Like, or maybe a little under neutral?
Yeah, it's going to be under neutral. He's now at +3, though. He did just get another Swords Dance up, trying to do the saying it out loud to keep mental track of how many attack boosts the Zacian does have. But now threatening a Behemoth Blade heavily into that Calyrex Ice Rider slot. For Rushil, at the very least, no protect on that last turn allows you to protect this turn to get your own Incineroar in. Whereas you're protecting on the fake out turn, lets Sohaib just get a free Swords Dance up to launch another attack into that slot. Incineroar now switching in place of that Calyrex. I don't think this Pokemon's going to enjoy a +2 Behemoth Blade, even with Zacian being burned at all.
Not at all. Here we go, Behemoth Blade coming into play. Good night, Incineroar.
And to be fair, though, I think it's done its job.
Yeah,
you know,
more than enough.
you were able to slow down Sohaib's most important Pokemon on the field. You burned it. You put it in range now where I would think that even after this parting shot and the Draco Meteor special attack drops last turn, I would think another Draco Meteor should pick up this Zacian from this range.
Do you think so? I'm not sure.
You're at -3.
That's a tough call.
It's going to be close. For Rushil, you know, he's also got Sohaib's team pretty much right where he wants them.
Yes,
You know, everything is just so low on HP. As long as you just are able to take care of the Zacian, which the Draco Meteor does not.
Wait, but the burn, but the burn.
But the burn will pick it up. Wow.
Right, okay,
Yes.
okay, all right. Okay.
It gives you a little bit of a hint on maybe how much defensive investment that Zacian has.
Yes.
Now, both teams with 3 Pokemon left, and because the Raging Bolt is still standing, even with the burn now just slowly chipping away at its own health, this Raging Bolt is extremely important for the end game to deal with this Pelipper.
Yes.
Nothing else on your team really deals with this Pelipper.
Not even close. But to be honest, Sohaib's team lost a lot of its momentum, a lot of its power. There's not a huge amount of attacking stats from these Pokemon. Like maybe Hurricane from your Pelipper. Like that's what we got. You know? No offensive momentum over here, but Raging Bolt definitely offensively oriented. The 137. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, we can do a ton of that, bro. Listen. Oh, and of course we still have the Urshifu in the back. We can't forget about that either.
Oh yeah, no switches coming out from Rushil's side. Just content to leave this Raging Bolt at -5 stages of special attack to click Draco Meteor, trying to get a little bit of chip on this Amoonguss, which will protect itself for Sohaib. Weather Ball coming out into this Calyrex. Likely going to do a pretty good amount of damage. Yeah, not quite a 2-hit KO, but if Calyrex does have to click high horsepower into this Amoonguss, that Rocky Helmet recoil maybe makes high horsepower, or maybe makes Weather Ball, and will allow it to KO after this turn. It looks like it could be a damage range.
We're going to have to see. Wide Guard, I do kind of like the idea of it because Calyrex is still threatening a huge knockout on that Amoonguss, of course, with that ice and what's the name? I forget.
Glacial Lance.
Glacial Lance, yeah, of course. Wow, I said ice.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day, dude.
Yes. It's Icicle Spear if it were good. 100% accurate, spread, twice as strong. Wide Guard does come out as Draco Meteor into this Amoonguss, just chipping it down a little bit more. And we'll see what move Rushil locked into with this Calyrex. It is just another high horsepower. Does get rid of Amoonguss, a crucial piece for Sohaib's team. I think now Rushil is in a pretty solid position if he's able just to get Raging Bolt off the field.
Yes.
This Pokemon at -6 stage of special attack needs to reset that.
It has to be reset. I mean, it seems pretty safe to switch it out and put in Urshifu. It's not like we can win with this Raging Bolt. I don't think either of these two Pokemon can really contest it very well. And of course, you still have your Shadow Rider as well. So, not Shadow Rider, your Ice Rider.
Yes.
So,
the important interaction here is with Raging Bolt, we've seen now how fast Sohaib's Incineroar is, outspeeding his own Pelipper, outspeeding Rushil's Pelipper. Likely will be faster than Rushil's Raging Bolt as well. Is this Incineroar able to knock out the Raging Bolt before it can knock out the Pelipper? Because without the Raging Bolt is Rushil's only way to knock out this Pelipper at this range. It's faster than the Calyrex Ice Rider and threatens it with a knockout with Weather Ball. Urshifu has lost its Choice Scarf, is not going to be able to really do too much in this game, and I think will likely take a Hurricane on the switch in here. I think this switch is fairly telegraphed from Rushil's end.
Easy to protect from the Calyrex, so what's it going to be at this point? Knockoff, going to go ahead into that slot. It'll definitely guarantee that KO. Yep, there it is.
There's the Hurricane.
Which is what we wanted for Rushil anyway, because now we get that free switch back into Raging Bolt. All those drops, gone. I'm at full power, baby.
Yeah,
online.
I'll say Rushil might have liked to have his Urshifu that outspeeds both of Sohaib's Pokemon and threatens a knockout on the Incineroar. I think he might have liked to have that.
Yeah, maybe, but...
But now we start getting into those mind games of, does Rushil click Thunderclap? Does Sohaib click a damaging move? Who is faster between the Pelipper and the Raging Bolt? Who's faster between the Incineroar and the Raging Bolt? You know, there are just a lot of mind games here, and that's all without mentioning this whole Calyrex that still exists for Rushil's side.
Well, we do know that this Incineroar can't protect, so it could be a really easy knockout if they predict that Pelipper goes for Protect here. But again, like you said, it's the mind game.
The fastest thing on the field, Incineroar knocks off Calyrex Ice Rider. There's a KO.
Oh, hold on.
Now the speed interaction between Pelipper and Raging Bolt could decide the game. And Raging Bolt is faster, clicks Thunderbolt into Incineroar, not enough for a KO. Hurricane now into Raging Bolt does minuscule damage as Rain does stop.
Okay, that's pretty huge. That makes Hurricane's accuracy significantly lower.
It does, and it removes the water typing from Weather Ball. The problem is, because of the side burn from Rushil's Incineroar earlier, I just don't think Raging Bolt has enough turns.
You don't think so?
I think a Weather Ball, you know, even if you get the Thunderclap to KO the Incineroar this turn, which he does not even click Thunderclap, and that's going to be the game. I would have loved to see how much damage that that normal type Weather Ball did into Raging Bolt if it puts it in range of another turn to burn. But Sohaib, endgame played masterfully, wins 2-0 with, I think it's fair to say, his least favorite restricted Pokemon, winning the midseason showdown here at Balance Patch. Just an incredible performance for Sohaib all throughout today.
He brought it to every game.
He brought it to every game of this set. But
wow, what a match.
but incredible finals for both these players. Again, massive congratulations to Rushil for getting his invitation to the World Championships in Honolulu coming up in August. Make sure I get the month right. But so excited for him. So excited for Sohaib, who had his Worlds invite locked up long time ago. This is a player who grinds locals, grinds regionals, grinds international championships like nobody else. So excited to watch both these players. And to watch them from up close as I'll be in Hawaii with them.
Yes, sir.
Very excited.
Yes, sir. I know that's exciting, dude. I know that's exciting.
So looking forward to it.
Man, yes, that was us. You guys just watched the Balance Patch Mid-Season Showdown. This was a great event. Again, I'm Sohaib, a.k.a. Naheem, and I'm here with
Jacob Lintner, a.k.a. Linty.
Exactly.
Got to.
And now, that's it from us. Have a good night.